at one point, the city of New York was the largest slum landlord in the city with owning a third of, dilapidated buildings and things like
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
So when you think about the building, because this is a similar concept, I guess, in a way, when you have, in New York, they have the TIL program.
Hmm.
It's tenant something lease or whatever. I forget what it stands for. My aunt's building actually in Harlem is a TIL program building.
Hmm.
The building my parents lived in when we were little eventually became a TIL program building. But basically, the tenants gain ownership they have an ownership interest in their units. Is ultimately what happens. They get it from
Hmm.
the city
Okay.
because the city owns the building.
Hmm.
So like this type of stuff, I was like, wow, this is so powerful. If we could organize, if we could, and I've always felt so limited because this information. I'm like, I wish I could help people do this stuff, but I have little kids that I'm raising, so I can't just like it's so bad. I've had to balance, competing interests and values almost to some
Yeah.
extent. But then as I've gotten older, I realized it's not a competing interest. If I've been investing in them and still
Hmm.
keeping my foot in these issues here and there.
Which is a great learning experience for
And
them as well. Yeah.
well, yeah, and they have a very different understanding of service and of engaging on these issues than me or many of my
Hmm.
peers had when we were kids, because of the way we're talking about stuff. So my daughter, she's AP Human Geography test tomorrow, so she's taking Human Geography. So they did all this stuff about planning and
I
development and
love human
whatever.
geography. I love it.
It has like opened up her mind to a whole different world. So she's talking about all these concepts and I'm giggling. I'm like, it's fascinating that we finally get to talk about this stuff. I really didn't think we'd have these conversations for
Yeah.
like another 10 years or so, but
Yeah.
she's already there. And so
I
I think
love
that's
that
the beauty of
class.
exposing kids to education. Kids are sponges and we have to be careful what we give them because
Hmm.
they'll soak it up. They'll soak it right up.
Yeah.
But city regional planning was a very interesting. It was an interesting experience too, going through the program
Hmm.
because we had tension within the program. We had a lot of white affluent people in the program who come from a more suburban background wanting to do urban planning
Yeah.
without any real concept or understanding of urban issues.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it was very interesting going through this program and having these conversations with people and interacting with our professors. And so come graduation time, I'm looking at jobs. I got asked to interview for
Wow.
a transportation planner position in Columbus with the engineering firm because of my affiliation with minority engineering. I was like,
Yeah.
well, I'm not an engineer. I don't have an engineering background.
Hmm.
And they were like, well, that's okay because with civil engineering, it's funny for civil because they offered a dual degree with civil engineering for in grad school, and I almost did it, but then I was like,
Yeah.
nah, I'm not going to do it. I have no interest in that.
Hmm.
But you don't need you just needed the certain classes. You didn't actually need to have an engineering undergrad to have the master's in civil engineering, that dual program they had. I thought
Yeah.
that was interesting. But thinking about transportation planning, I watched in Columbus how when they built the new malls outside of the city, like one of them was built with the lane so narrow that buses couldn't get through there, like actually in the mall area. And it
Yeah.
causes huge, because they didn't want those people, it causes huge uproar because how are people going to get to their jobs if they don't have access to a bus? Like
Absolutely.
it was all types of stuff. So that was a very interesting experience. But during that time, I applied to law school again.
All right.
Because
You're on
law
your
school is
mission,
room
huh?
I have a one track mind. I get sidelined for a little bit. Everybody's like, really, you're really doing this. And while I was in grad school, there was a dual degree program with a JD, MCRP program, and I considered that too.
Hmm.
But then I wanted the full benefit of having the ability to fully study both disciplines, right?
Yeah.
Because your electives end up being your required classes in the other ones, so you don't really get to pick and choose electives. So I
Hmm.
didn't do that. But the head of our department at the time, he was a lawyer planner. He had a JD and he had his
Hmm.
master's of planning. And so I took his classes and I did an independent study with him. And my independent study with him was doing a community handbook, how communities could use eminent domain. I looked at several different cases across the
Uh-huh.
country, and I made it as a handbook. And then we gave out some of the community members when I worked with the city, and everyone was like, "This is interesting." Nothing ever came of it, but everyone was like, "This is interesting. We never thought about it like that."
Uh-huh.
Like, okay, whatever. Maybe someday somebody will find my little handbook I
Okay. All right. Hey,
made.
now stop right there. Stop right there. Now, see, we here at
Yeah.
the Louisa Project 2027, we we like to talk about innovation and entrepreneurship, right? So,
Yes.
um, to my mind, this is just me. There's got to be
Mm-hmm.
an organization out there that has grant money for a program like that. There's got to be, right? So
Yeah, probably
yeah, but
so.
I'm just as
Definitely.
especially in areas where eminent domain can be used for all these houses that are left empty after the crash, right? Eminent domain can be used to okay, whoever's left in the neighborhood use eminent domain to get these houses for a song, and we invest and try to get this neighborhood back on its feet, rent those houses out, so on and so forth.
Well, and that's like you'll see different articles. People are just like, why don't, or see posts like, why don't we put all the homeless people in all the foreclosed
Yeah, yeah,
houses,
absolutely,
things
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
And I think that there's something, even though some people scoff at it, I think there's something valid too. Like when I worked in
Mm-hmm.
Chicago, so I applied to law school, I get into law school, um, and I go to law school. Coming out of law school, I'm moving. I've had different internships. I have good
Uh-huh.
job prospects. 2008 happens and everything dries up.
Yeah, everything is the whole world got turned
Everything
upside down.
dries
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Yeah, people in my class had offers rescinded. I was looking like I was getting an offer, and they were like, "Yeah, sorry, we can't give you an answer till May." Because we do our job hiring a year out.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, "You mean like May as in graduation was when they were going to give us an answer?" And we have to sign up for the bar several months in advance too. So I would
Mm-hmm.
have had to gamble and sign up for the bar in New York and hope that I would get this job or something else, or I would just be stuck in New York, which is an extremely expensive place to be stuck
Yes,
without a job.
absolutely, absolutely.
So I didn't. I opted not to do it. So I ended up working in Chicago for
Mm-hmm.
BPI, Business and Professional People for the Public Interest. It
Mm-hmm.
is a nonprofit law firm, basically. The one of the founders, Alexander Polikoff, litigated the original Gautreaux v. CHA, Gautreaux v. HUD. It's a housing,
Uh-huh.
civil rights housing discrimination lawsuit from the late 60s.
Okay.
He argued the cases in front of the Supreme Court.
Wow.
And they pulled together, interested folks in Chicago, Metroland, and they funded a nonprofit law center to basically oversee what was the longest held receivership over a government entity. I think it officially ended, I think, in
Uh-huh.
like 2011 or so. Um, but it had been in place for over 40 years, overseeing and making sure that there was compliance with the consent decrees and things of that nature. And
Uh-huh.
so we're talking about, and one of the things that came up during that process was with the housing bus, we did have so many. We were looking at project-based Section 8 vouchers because there were different ways the city was supposed to help desegregate their housing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Chicago is still a very hyper-segregated place.
Yeah, like most big
As
cities,
is,
yeah.
yeah, a lot of big cities, especially talk about the North, we never really talk about housing segregation, education segregation. We always think about it as a Southern issue. It is very much a problem up in northern cities.
Yes.
I think the list is like Milwaukee. I think it's Milwaukee, then New York, then Chicago. And from a study I saw a couple, maybe like 2 months ago, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of the highest in segregated cities.
Yes.
But in Chicago, one thing they did look at though, well, on a small scale, was looking at some of these foreclosed properties using project-based Section 8 vouchers to then use those as places. I think that was one proposal from the conserv for the Habitat company. Habitat is actually Valerie Jarrett's organization,
Oh, I didn't know
President
that.
Obama. Yeah, the
I didn't know
Habitat
that.
was her organization. Yeah, so they were the receiver. They were the receiver company over CHA to make sure everything was going properly. So we would have meetings
Mm-hmm.
with Habitat staff. We would have meetings with CHA staff. When I worked in Chicago, I was a staff council at that time. That was 1 year I did that. But we sat on neighborhood development working groups to help make sure, and this was my city and regional planning and my law finally coming together.
Yeah.
All these years later.
That sounds so interesting. So interesting.
It was wild, but just to what you were saying, there are small examples of how people have been able to get some of those properties to use for the community. But it's difficult, it's challenging, it takes a lot of effort, more so than a lot of groups have been willing to invest in. But it is another strategy that could be used, particularly when we look at so many of our communities that are taking a long time to recover.
Yeah, and that's part of that's one to my mind. It's one of the problems with the. I guess we'll go here. Some of our folks don't believe economics impacts us. I don't.
Well, yeah, but they're also coming from a very different perspective.
Yeah, I was thinking, these communities that have, nearly nothing, a $15 an hour minimum wage could change everything in a small community.
Yeah,
that's the difference between, even beyond kids eating and being outside of poverty. Maybe you got a little bit to invest. Maybe you even got a little bit to invest in local politics. The little thing.
Well, I remember. Yeah, I remember when I think it was Iowa. There was a small businessman in Iowa, and he was pointing out how a $15 an hour minimum wage meant that people could actually come afford to patron his business.
Yeah.
It was. I thought that was we're talking about supporting small businesses. Yeah, even when we talk about buying black, right? That's expensive at times compared to going to the big box store. We need to have the funds. We need to be able to economically afford to do that.
And we could pool funds, and being able to pool funds is the difference between that land going, becoming someplace for gangs to hang out, or something we could purchase from the city for a song, just as long as we take care of it. Or even for what Jennifer Louise was talking about, we turn that area into a garden, right? But without resources, we can't do that.
Yeah, community. I think all of this overlaps, especially when you're talking about innovation and entrepreneurship. When we look at community gardens, we look at the urban farming movement and really helping to turn. It's education. I mean, that is such a multidisciplinary, topic, because it's educational, it's nutritional support, it's innovation and entrepreneurship going on too. Yeah. Like I was talking with someone recently, they're talking about the rise of black farmers, or even bringing back, like having black-owned farmers markets, community-owned, co-ops and things that you don't need you don't need a whole lot of space to even do stuff like that, right? That just helps address the issue of food insecurity on so many levels.
And that's where we start that interview I did with Jennifer Louise.
I'm gonna have to go back and check that out. Okay,
that's where I started, was the food insecurity, and also as that food insecurity impacts education, right? Hungry kids can't learn. It's harder for hungry kids to learn.
Well, no, not at all.
Yeah, so people, I mean, there's so many things that we could, if we had the know-how, right? And back to the entrepreneurial piece, right? I mean, even if I'm not trying to get rich, if I love gardening and I love kids, I find an organization that wants to give me a grant. I get me a little van or a camper, and I go from city to city, teaching schools and teaching churches, teaching everybody how to take whatever land they have and turn it into a sustainable source of fresh fruits and vegetables. How could that go bad? How could that possibly?
Right, exactly.
And then you've taken your life. And you're paying your bills, you're raising your family while making other people's lives better. And I don't think there's anything in life better than that. Absolutely nothing. You don't have to get rich, but if you can find something that enriches your life while enriching other people's lives, and I think we as a country, as we've become more conservative, an argument for another day, as a nation, we've become less concerned about our fellow man and fellow woman and fellow children. And that bothers me, and that's another reason why I started this program, is try for people to see and using entrepreneurship as, people move for money, but why can't we move for money for positive means, right? I have this discussion all the time with a conservative that I work with. We are arguing all the time. I said, all this energy you conservatives have, all this energy you guys use trying to screw people over. What if you use that energy to help people, right? Because everybody, we were talking about kids at this time. Everybody knows it's cheaper to feed a kid early than to deal with the health issues, the
Yep.
emotional issues, the what people do when the choices people make when they're hungry, right? When people are hungry or don't have, they
Exactly.
make bad decisions, and those bad decisions end up putting kids in jail. And there's all these things that we could have fixed just by feeding a kid at school, or feed, these little costs that conservatives used to believe pay make small investments that pay big dividends later. Even if it's something negative, like you don't have to put a kid in jail, or you don't have to put
Right.
this family's not on welfare because the education system works better, and you realize that having not having a bunch of kids, having two kids or one kid is better than having a bunch of kids. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's
Exactly.
these things that bother me when he and I have he and I and anybody else who wants to dive in, because this is Alabama. I'm the only liberal in the whole building. And so when you have these discussions, it's just the lack of logic and the lack of concern for your fellow man that bothers me more than anything. And I
Yeah.
hope this program can help even if it turns it around for a couple of people. Said, okay, you can make a life by helping other people. It is possible, and that is so important to me. I'm sorry, I went on a
No,
rant. My
you're
bad.
fine.
This
That's
is your
good. No, no,
this is
no.
your
It's good.
show.
No, that's fine because that I think ultimately at the end of the day, that's what I really believe, that education, the pursuit of education,
Hmm.
it's great to be smart. It's great to know a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
but it's a completely different thing to then turn around and impact the world around you, to bestow a little knowledge,
Yes.
do your best to help somebody else along. My daughter was she had loaned someone a book for an English class
Uh
that they
huh.
had to read, and she was just like, I haven't gotten my book. Can you see how much this book costs? Da, da, da. I was like, what? I'll just buy another one. Don't worry about, because
Yeah.
the little girl, her parents didn't have the $15 right then to buy. It was a hardcover book. They got to order it online. It's not available in the store. All this other stuff. I was like, what? I got
Yeah.
50. I mean, I'm not, like I said, we're not rich or anything.
Yeah.
We
But $15 not
okay,
gonna kill you.
but I
Yeah.
can afford. But I can afford to buy. I said, so just tell her she can keep that book, and
Hmm.
I can get another book. And I told my daughter, I said, if you ever in a class, an English class, and one of your friends needs a book, let me know.
Yeah.
I mean, don't have to make a big deal out of it or whatever. Just simply hand off the book, and then you have another one,
Yeah.
because that is even that security with kids and being able. Once upon a time, they gave out the books that you were reading in class. Now kids have to buy their own books and stuff like that or whatever.
Yeah.
But
It's
like,
ridiculous.
and
Yeah.
this is a hardback book too. So I told her, I said, you better tell your teacher, she lucky this was only a $15 book, because the hardback books are
Yes,
expensive.
they are. Yes, the textbooks in general are
But
expensive, which is
yeah, it's
crazy.
crazy. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah, yeah. A friend of
But
mine used to work for Pearson. Oh my God. Anyway, I'm sorry. Another day. Another
but
day.
the textbook lobby, yeah.
Something else you mentioned, because this is an educational show and is
Right.
mostly going to be adults watching this. You said something about taking requisites versus electives. It's something that I also learned, but I learned it the hard way. It took me from '88 to damn near what 2009, 2010 to finish my degree, right? My bachelor's, because traveling a lot. I was in the military. A lot of the
Uh-huh.
time I wasn't interested in school, and just that's how my life was. That's who I was,
Yep.
right? I finally grown up at the ripe old age of 47. I'm finally grown up. Uh, but something that I've learned was that an elective, you're paying most cases you're paying the same price for classes. Don't take basket weaving. If you have something, if
Yeah.
there's something out there, suppose, like, I've changed my major at least 4 times, right? So if there's something else out there that you think you may be interested, take that class. Don't burn an elective on gym. Don't burn an elective on basket weaving. Whatever that class was. Not there's nothing against basket weaving, there's nothing against physical education. But if you have another interest that you'd like to chase or pursue, and you're not really sure which way you're going, don't burn your electives. Am I right, Anoa?
I mean, definitely. Like, I really think that one of the things I learned, and I don't know that all schools have it, but everyone I've helped do their stuff, because I'm the family admissions counselor, I'm the family academic advisor. I will sit there and I will learn what I need to learn to help you figure it out.
Yeah.
Both my brother and my sister, when we were at Ohio State, my partner and I, the kid's dad and I, just like not quite on topic, but we met at school. We were both engineering majors. He's similar. He's been in and out of school over the last several years. He's tried to finish his degree several times, but it's just, it got away from him, and he started working. He's a union iron worker now. He's been working now for like close to 10 years. So the idea of stopping full-time work to then go back to school, because engineering is not something you can do part-time on the weekends.
I can imagine.
They don't have labs on the weekends in most places. So he goes back and forth, whether or not he'll ever go back and finish his degree. Will he maybe become a teacher instead? So he goes back and forth. So we split when the kids were smaller. We've since reconciled. We've reconciled now that and the kids are like, great. Now you reconcile. You reconcile when we don't care about mommy and daddy.
We're living our own lives.
But it's lessons learned. And when we talk to the kids and the family, to our kids and other kids in our family from two different vantage points. I talk to them as someone who pushed through. He talks to them as someone who did not complete, but also has quite a bit of debt, in the process too. So he was talking to my sister. So when my sister's getting ready to go to college last year, we're having two different conversations, but they are interrelated. He was making a comment, and it's one I never thought of because we had different viewpoints. He was talking about how making sure, he's like, kind of, he talks about, majoring in majors that don't make no money. It's a funny song line, but it's a real issue.
It is a real
issue. If you're going to this private school that costs XYZ amount a year, and you're taking out all these loans, and you're majoring in not basket weaving, but let's say you're going to major in sociology, right? Like, a sociology major makes like $30,000 a year. So if you're going to $30,000,
you got to be a social worker.
So if you're going to a school, or a social worker, right? If you're going to a school for that type of liberal arts degree, you're going to an expensive school. You got to look at the numbers. You got to look at what the value add. You got to look at all that stuff. And I was like, you know what? I said, that's a great point. And he told her, he's like, that's not to discourage you. Because she was going to major. She originally set out to major in economics. He was like, well, have you looked at it? Have you looked at the Bureau of Labor Statistics? Have you looked at this? Have you looked at, and I was like, those are really good points. He was like, these are things that I've learned along the way. So and I tell people in my life all the time, it does not matter that you do not necessarily have certain accolades or you didn't have certain degrees. The smartest person in my life is my father. My father has his high school degree from Boys High School in Brooklyn. That is it.
Yeah. He went to Carter High School in Atlanta, but he is absolutely brilliant with math.
Oh, he went to Carter High School.
Yeah, my father was Carter. Yeah, it was much different back then. I guarantee.
I'm sure.
And, but he is a brilliant when it comes to math. He does things in his head.
Yes, exactly.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, my dad has self-taught himself about quantum mechanics and physics and all these other theoretical things. And I just look at him. Well, my dad worked in a bookstore, so he would read. So I'm just like,
go ahead.
I'm just like, so I don't think that. So I talk about it just because I know that some people may talk to, like when I do the show or when I have Twitter issues with people, oh, you think you're a lawyer because you're better people. No, I do not. I know I'm not better than anyone because I'm a lawyer and I went to law school and I have these degrees and stuff. That doesn't make me smart. Engaging in knowledge, the acquisition of knowledge is so important outside of education, but education is one of those litmus tests that we have to be able to get through, life. Yeah, but I really like when my partner, when Craig and I talk, him being he's a union iron contractor, he talks about going through like apprenticeship programs, things like that. We used to have vo-tech education as kids. Like there
Hmm.
were vo-tech high schools. There were high schools that they had college prep, but they had vo-tech options too.
Yeah.
We have gotten, people had shop in class. Like
Hmm.
in school, there's so much
Yeah.
that we used
Home
to
ec.
do that we've gotten away from. Home ec.
Yeah.
There's so much that we got away from
Hmm.
that we don't do anymore that are so important now. Like we need iron workers and carpenters and electricians and plumbers and people like that
Yes.
too. And those are and we talk about entrepreneurship, right? Those are opportunities for people to be their own boss. So
Yeah.
like going back to when you started out, like whether it's getting a certificate. So if you go to you become a barber and get your barber's license, right? Because that's another method of entrepreneurship
Yes.
as
My
well.
my oldest son, he's 20. He just turned 25, and we've been trying to get
Hmm.
him to go to barber school because he's got all the best barbers had that great personality, that guy you want to hang out with.
Yeah,
Those are the guys that are making
yeah.
money. And that's my son, right? My oldest, he's got, well, actually all my kids have really nice personalities. He's a really nice guy. He's one of the cool kids, and and and,
Hmm.
and if he applied himself, went to barber school, he would be making money hand over fist. And it's really hard to tax barbershop money. It's really hard to
Yeah.
tax that barbershop money. So I'm not saying my son should have paid taxes when he becomes, or anybody should have paid taxes.
Right,
We don't
right,
do
right,
those
right,
things on
right.
the
No, 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 not at
Louisa
all.
Project 2027. We don't do that here. But in general, that is an excellent way to make money. Excellent way to make
But I think we need to start telling kids because for so long, this newest generation, college, 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 college has been the only thing shoved down their throat.
money.
Don't get
Hmm.
me wrong. I've told my kids the same thing, but then our next sentence is you have to do something.
Yeah, you have to
If
do
you're not
something.
going to go to college, you have to
Do
do
something.
something.
Absolutely.
Whatever training, whatever else you do, you have to do something,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
And I like how you're talking about education, but also innovation and
Yeah.
entrepreneurship because you don't want to just be in a position where you're going into just some job. Like, how is that
Yes.
furthering your brand? How is that building something for you for the long run? So don't just go work in somebody else's shop.
You be
Work
your
on
shop.
having your own
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely.
Right. Like, don't just learn how to work on some cars. Can
Hmm.
you eventually have your own garage? Like
Yep.
there's so many. Don't just go be a plumber for some of these companies. Be your own. So be your own boss. So I really like. I think that is something that is missing. We talk about all the things that we wish we could have learned. I wish I would learn more about budgeting and financing and
Hmm.
learning about working for myself because I realized in stress, even so I'm trying to figure out how to like really get into consulting work and stuff. That I
Hmm.
just like, you know, that generation before like our parents' generation and grandparents, you get
Yeah.
your good job, you stay with your good job, you've gotten in there, you
Hmm.
get your pension, you retire, and that's good.
Yep.
But like, that's not, they don't, go
but the
ahead.
generation before that, the generation before that was all about entrepreneurship because this is we have to,
Yeah,
we have to do everything within our community. Like you hear the stories about Black Wall
right,
and many other communities like that. My mother
exactly.
grew up in a community like that in Lowndes County, Alabama. Right? She grew up in a community where the black community was so insular. Right? It was to the point where it was one of those. It was what the black community in Lowndes County at that time where she was growing up. It was You ever see that movie Deacons of Defense? You ever see that movie with Forrest
Yes,
Whitaker?
yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
It's based on Lowndes County, Alabama. It's actually based on one place
Oh,
in
okay.
Louisiana, but it's also based on Lowndes County, Alabama. It's one of those towns where the county sheriff is like, okay, if the Klan and Night Rider is going to go through that part of town, you are on your own because these Negroes shoot back. Right? That's the area, but the entrepreneurship was the key to that community's survival. Right? I don't know
Right,
economically. I don't know how many times a dollar changed hands before it left that community, and everybody did something with their hands. Like my grandfather, he was a
right.
carpenter, right? And he would work and even to this day, there's some of the in that my family in that area, they do not know how to stop working. A lot of them are that work for the city during the week as police officers, teachers, but on the weekend, they're fixing cars, building houses, repairing houses,
Yeah.
right? And if you can get a community like that and add higher education to the mix, man, the
Yep.
things and access to capital, man, the things a community
Yeah,
like
that's
that could,
another thing.
yes, things a community like that could do are limitless, absolutely limitless. You know, and you know that, and hopefully, you know, something it'll click for some people, and God willing, I'll have something to do with it. You know, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, and those are the things that kind of excite me about this project is talking to people like you, talking to people that have had such a rich experience in education and life. You know, it's just absolutely amazing. I'm going to Europe this year and interview some of my friends over there. My best friend, he's from Ghana, and his story is absolutely amazing. And I'm going to get it on video. I'm gonna save
Yes.
that surprise for you. And also my teacher, my martial arts teacher, his story is amazing. Right? He's a German guy, teaches Chinese martial arts, one of the best in the world. And his stories, and just the people you know, and their the richness of their lives, and it's just it's an amazing thing. And well, I guess we go ahead and start closing out. Let me make sure I got everything covered. We didn't go to challenge. What was your let's kind of backtrack a little bit. What was your biggest challenge?
Okay.
What was your absolute biggest challenge during during your educational career? What would you say was your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge, I think, maybe was uh, it's something it's something I continue to work on now. Like, you know, work-life balance, work, school,
Mm-hmm.
home, family balance, but keeping understanding the meantime, right? Like the waiting, like will you get there? Can you finally do it? Like things would happen, life happens. I say it even with all
It
this Bernie stuff and all the progressive movement stuff, progressive
mm-hmm.
stuff. You know, life hard happens when there's a revolution. Life happens when you're trying to get a degree. Kids get sick. My son had, I mean, the challenge has been trying to manage, you know, when the other shoe drops. It's like, how many feet do you have? Because it felt like a shoe was dropping every other, you know, like my son had, apparently my second, I think it was my second year during finals, my son had walking pneumonia.
Oh God.
And no, it's my third year. It's my third year during finals. My son had walking pneumonia. He's like 4.5, 5. And you know, kids, he had a low grade fever, but I'm just like, okay, whatever. He was playing, no big deal. Like, go lay down, you'll be fine. Take some cough syrup. I got to study.
Yeah.
I eventually found out they wanted me to go sit in the emergency room. I'm like, I have a final tomorrow. I'm not going to the. I need to go study. I'm not going to the emergency room. I looked at him. I said, you all said he's fine, so he's fine. So eventually, I took him after my test, and when they told me he had walking pneumonia, I was
devastated.
Devastated. I cried so hard, and they were like, "It's okay, Mom. There's no way you could have known. We didn't catch it." And you know, it takes, you know, the thing about walking pneumonia, you know, we wouldn't have caught it 2 days ago anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I was so terrified, and I was so traumatized. But my biggest challenge was facing myself every day. Because was I doing the right thing? I've been so gung-ho and hell-bent on becoming an attorney my entire life, right? As I mentioned, the dad and I split up when we were younger. I mean, it was just stressful. If you're managing a family, you're managing a life, you're trying to get through school, you don't really have, like, it's not like, you know, you had the parents to pick up the slack and do stuff for you. Like, we were completely on our own. So that challenge, the biggest challenge was managing the family that we had started and managing these dreams and these goals, and not wanting to sacrifice one for the other. And along the way, sacrificing some things that might have been important to me. And I'm blessed enough to have, you know, second chances at a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But the kids, the biggest challenge though was making sure that I was giving enough to my children. That they were not raising, you know, I didn't want my daughter to be put in a position, they're 2.5 years apart. She's very mature for her age. But I didn't want her to be put in a position where she's pretty much raising Max to pick up the slack for me. She didn't learn how to cook probably a lot earlier than other people. But, I mean, you know, She discovered Rachel Ray when she was like around 6 or 7. She was like, "Oh, this is a 30-minute meal.
Oh,
I can make a 30-minute meal."
too easy.
I'm like, "Whatever." I'm not letting you near my stove, but
Uh-huh.
but I mean, I think that was like the biggest challenge. Like school has never been difficult for me, and I think that's because I was homeschooled. The way my parents, no. I think it's the way my parents. I think it's the way my father taught me how to analyze. You know, there's a lot of emphasis on analyzing, right? Critical analysis and critical thinking.
And that's missing.
That's not something
we're missing.
That is not what we're taught in school, public or private. We're not really taught to think and dissect, and we're not really taught. I think the way my dad taught me how to engage, I think the things that my dad taught me, my mom, you know, the people who came in to help us, I think what they did, I think that really helped me in how I view and analyze things going forward. So I think that was helpful. So school was never really my challenge. It was balancing everything else because I didn't want to get so focused on I gotta finish that I lost out on life and time with the kids. So Max, you know, did little kicker soccer and he hated it because he wanted to run and tackle people. When we finally got to going to football, he was happy as a clown. Because we were like, Max, you can't tackle people in soccer. But like, you know, I try to make sure the kids had opportunities. But like I said, they've been around education. They've been around people studying and working hard their whole lives. It was a challenge balancing all of that. In law school, there were a couple of us in law school who had kids. And so we would get together at Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A has family nights. I don't know if it's still, I can't remember if it's Tuesday night or Thursday night, but Chick-fil-A had family nights. Chick-fil-A also was one of the few places in town that had free wireless. So Chick-fil-A had a play place. No, seriously, Chick-fil-A had a play place for the kids. We would post up and we would post up in the back where the outlets were. Chick-fil-A had a play place so the kids could run around. It was a safe area, and they had free wireless. So we would go study. We'd post up for 2 hours, let the kids play, tire themselves out. It was cheap. You know what I'm saying? A kid's meal was only $2. I mean, so it was a challenge. It was a challenge, and it was a hard all the time because I couldn't necessarily do things that everybody else could do either. Like I couldn't go take the really cool job because you know I had to worry about paying for daycare through the summer. Like it was just. But my family really pulled through. Their dad, even though we had our differences with me moving to West Virginia for law school and stuff, he still stepped up to help out. You know, his parents stepped up to help out to make sure that the kids. We had summer care, so I could go work for the summer. You can go do your summers away and stuff. I was actually able to. My godmother kept the kids for me. I was actually able to go on a study abroad. When I got to law school, I got to do things I had never done in college because the kids were a little older at that time.
No diapers.
They weren't that. They were 6 and 3 by then. So I got to go to Brazil and do study abroad. But that was like, but it was hard. It was hard to make those choices because do I make this choice and do this thing that takes me away from my kids? I mean, that was the biggest challenge. You know, being pulled in a direction because I'm always going to be a mom. But then I want to do all these other things too, and it was challenging. But finding a way, so I feel like where I am now and what I do now, I've chosen to be a mom first. That's why, like my profile says, I'm a mom first, I'm a lawyer second. Being a lawyer was always what I wanted to do, but being a mom, I believe, being their mother has been my destiny. I mean, like that has been the most valuable role I could ever have. It's not me giving up anything. I still get to do what I want to do here and there, mixed in, but I really feel like investing in them, you know, and their future, their educational well-being. I think that helps them put them on a better path so they don't have to repeat some. I mean, we can help our kids. They're still going to make their own mistakes and stuff, but at least something becomes easier for them, at least in terms of certain things that we can at least help. So challenges, I mean, there are many particular incidents, but the Max getting sick, like I wanted to take tax law. I took tax law. I was actually pretty good in tax law, but I had to drop the class because between Max getting sick and I was involved in moot court and trial competitions in law school in my 3rd year, I would have missed too many days. And that was a professor that had a very strict attendance policy. He was fond of me. He was like, "You're doing really well in my class." I was like, "I know, but I have to drop your class because I know I'm about to violate your attendance rule, and I know you're not going to break it for me."
Yeah.
And so I mean, those were challenges because you have very real issues that other people don't have to face. Like, you know, other people are coming straight out of college. Their mommies and daddies are still helping to pay their rent or whatever the
Mm-hmm.
case may be.
Yeah.
I've never had help paying rent. I mean, I had help with rent the first year I moved here when I moved in with my dad and my stepmom when we came from West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, that was a very traumatic experience. Not living with my parents, but leaving West Virginia stuff was just traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
So that was well overdue. But I mean, just managing the stress, like I mean, because like you know, you raise kids, it's real. Life is real having a
I
family
got
and
to give it
raising
up.
kids.
My wife carries most of that weight. I got to give it up. I can't. I mean, I'm here. You know, I'm the enforcer in the
Yeah,
house. You know, and you know, I cart them
yeah,
around. I do all that good stuff. But my wife carries the weight. As the Mexicans say, the a home is built on the woman. Well, whoever the main caretaker is, and that's my wife.
yeah.
She is the key to everything. She, like I always tell her, she's the center of my world, and I just being real. I do my share. You know, I'm a pretty decent dad. I give me a little rah rah, but in general, that's
But
my wife. You
that
moms
has
rock.
been the challenge, and that's why I appreciate my partner. I appreciate their dad because no matter what we were going through, he always recognized and understood that our kids have always come first.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you know, I was bouncing, you know, I bounced like this thing about going through school, like this when I think about next, and I talk to them about it too,
Mm-hmm.
about what I went through, because I want them to understand there's not going to be any illusions or delusions about who mommy and daddy were when they were little kids. Like you need to know, I had my foot on your bouncer rocking you when I typed papers. Like you need to understand what my struggle was, not
Mm-hmm.
because you need to be indebted to me, but I want you to understand, you know, the struggle that I went through, so
Mm-hmm.
hopefully you'll make different decisions when your time comes
Okay.
and stuff going forward.
All right. Thank you.
So
Thank you for that. I wanted to now. I was listening to that, and what struck me now now we've spoken about your challenges, and what struck me was the Chick-fil-A thing. I mean, everything struck me, but the Chick-fil-A thing,
yeah,
that was such a, you don't think about it as something that's uh it's a complex issue that you found a way to solve, you know, where everybody gets something out of it, that level of compromise. It sounds simple to some people, but solving that issue is really complex for a lot of people, right? I don't suppose I don't have the money to go to Chick-fil-A. I'll just be sitting in there
well,
hoping the
right,
best, you
right,
know, or
right.
you know, or
And we
transportation to
didn't
Chick-fil-A, you
always,
know. Yeah.
and we didn't always have it, and we didn't
See,
always have it.
yeah, exactly. So,
But we figured out a way. It was difficult.
mhm,
I mean, it was very like you know, like I try to do stuff like that because then they get to do something fun too.
mhm,
You know,
mhm.
because who doesn't? What kid doesn't like a good play
Yeah,
place, right?
exactly, exactly.
And Chick Fil A had a pretty good play
Yeah,
place,
we
and
they
you
just
know
built
they
one here in
had
our neighborhood about, I guess about last year sometime. They just built it, man. That place stays
yeah,
full. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, but the fact that they had wireless.
Yeah.
Because this is, you know, this is some years ago, so free wireless was a big deal.
Yeah. And
And like, okay, I could go to Panera for free wireless, but Panera wouldn't have anything for the kids. And
hmm
having when my son 3, 4, 5 years old sit still in color, that only
hmm
lasted about 15 minutes. You
Yeah.
know, we had to keep Max active.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Max,
then
Layla could do it, but Max couldn't. Max couldn't do it. So I
that's
had to make
boys.
sure that
That's
he
boys.
could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we.
When I first started school, his dad was so mad. When I first started law school, I said, "You need to come here. You need to potty train your son, and you need to cut his hair." Because Max had a lot of hair, and I would
Uh-huh.
braid it, but it was a fight. And Max liked to put food hair to store it for later, and he'd roll around the gravel. And I'm just like, I'm cutting his hair. He looked like a little Arabian, dark with like this really curly auburn hair. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't even understand where the hell this hair came from. His dad was so upset with me when I made it. I said, either you cut it. I'm saying I'm not going to deprive you of the
Uh-huh.
first haircut. But if
Uh-huh.
you don't come to cut his hair, I will find somebody to do it for you.
Somebody
So
gonna
he
cut
came. So when
it.
I first started school, he came. He cut Max's hair, and he helped him get potty trained during the day. He
Uh-huh.
did it over a weekend. It was amazing,
hmm
and I think that was a challenge for us because I was so focused on school,
hmm
and he supported me the best he could. but we still had our own interpersonal, I'm angry at you issues because you could have just stayed. Because I could have stayed in Columbus and went to school. I got into Ohio State for law school.
Uh-huh.
Ohio State gave me a 75% scholarship.
Oh,
And
that's
actually,
awesome.
when I wrote the dean and told him I wasn't going, he's like, wait a minute, where are you going? I said, I'm going to West Virginia. He's like, why would you do that? I said, because they gave me a full ride.
Yeah.
I said, they gave me a full ride. And he was like, oh, well, I think we got this other scholarship here. Talk to this other dean because I think there's some more money we might be able to find you.
Uh-huh.
But it was like, I didn't want to try. Like, I wanted something to be easy for a change.
Yeah.
Like, nothing was ever easy for me ever. And I didn't want to apply for another scholarship. I didn't want to hold my breath. And I didn't want their dad, who was, you know, we worked together at the time. I didn't want him helping me pay my tuition either. Like, I just didn't want to go through that.
Yeah,
and so that was a challenge. Making that decision and making a decision to move, making a decision. And at the time I went to WVU, my godmother was still there on staff. So everyone's always like, oh, well, she's the reason why you got in. She's the reason why. No. She's like a uber fair person. This woman is so fair. When I had her for trial act, she dinged me on assignments and would not give me the same extra credit she gave everybody else for stuff. Like, she would have me do extra things. Anyone else would have gotten extra credit for the stuff I did. She would not give it to me for fear that someone would accuse her of nepotism. And I'm like, but this is the rule. She's like, okay, but it doesn't apply to you. I mean, this is the rule. You have to. Like, I had a different set of rules in her class than everyone else or whatever because. But when I applied to WVU, they were like she told me they came to her and they were like, is she really going to come? She's like, I don't know. Are you guys going to admit her? Is her application good? What does it look like? Because she would be on the admissions committee, but when the round where my application came up, she stepped down. She stepped away. She recused herself basically, which was wild because an older white professor, when his son was there for a job, he did not do the same thing. Everybody was like, well, Cardi's son interviewed, and she's like, well, I'm not Cardi. So she was very by the book.
Yeah.
So when I went there, like first year classes are assigned by automatic selection. We joked about it for weeks. I ended up in her first year criminal law class. And even though it's anonymous grading and stuff, she's like, there's no way you could be in my class. They have to move you. And she walked me into the registrar's office. She's like, this is Anoa. This is my daughter. They're like, oh, we forgot Anoa's name isn't Scully like yours. Because she became she was my legal guardian when I was in high school. So everyone knew me up there as her daughter. And they were like, oh, yeah, we forgot. Anoa's last name is different. And she was like, how could you forget? Like, how do you guys forget that? You've known her since she was well, you didn't move her. So I ended up in random selection of her. It was hilarious. But I wanted things to be easy for a change, because I had that support. And my youngest brother, her son, is only a few years older than Nayla, and they went to school together. And so his after-school nanny also picked up Max after school. I wanted life to be easy for once. And so things were easy for on one end, but that's another challenge I guess I worked with. Like, we make decisions out of comfort, convenience, or ease, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but there are going to be repercussions no matter what you do. Right.
I'm a firm believer in cutting yourself some slack is when possible.
Right. And that's what I finally like. I agonized for years over decisions that I made, and finally I realized just what you just said. Like, it's okay to do something that helps you regain your footing or whatever.
That's one of the reasons why I want you and my wife to meet, because I was listening to you. I'm like, you and my wife will get along great because she's just realizing that journey you went through about. Because if it's the easy way, it's got to be wrong. That's the way she's German.
That's how I've been for a very long time.
Yeah, but enough years with me, Mr. Path of Least Resistance. Enough years with me. You got to learn something, right? And she's finally learning. You know what? This kitchen to get clean tomorrow. I don't have to agonize over every little thing, right? So I think you two. Hopefully, we'll get together in Atlanta one day. But let me go.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, let's. I was thinking while you were talking about the Chick-fil-A thing was the key for me. Now my head is all. If I had money, man, that'd be crazy. Now my head is always going right. So, let me build you a solution to your biggest challenge. Right, that life balance situation. Right. suppose, like you said, Ohio State is a resource-rich university, right? Suppose they had a facility for students who are parents, well, just a general facility for adult students. Just say if either you have to have children or you have to be an adult non-traditional student in order to use the facility, right? So in the facility, we have restaurant, playground, and perhaps daycare. And it's open from 11 in the morning to 11 at night, right? So you have and you have free Wi-Fi, gotta have the Wi-Fi, right?
Gotta have Wi-Fi, especially these days.
Right? And you're either near the campus. Say an entrepreneur came and built this facility and said, okay, I want these adult students, these non-traditional students with children, I want them to have a way to get through school and take some of these pressures off of them, right? Suppose that facility was built outside of the Ohio State University, in Columbus, and you had access to it because of your student ID card, and it's very little extra cost. Maybe you had to pay $25 a month membership fee. We'll call it a membership fee. Maybe there's a little gym on the side there too, so you get a little exercise.
Right.
So, but it's specifically geared to adult students, mostly with children. If that facility was built, how do you think your life would have been different? I know this is a thought experiment. We do this stuff all the time.
No. I agree. Like, I think that when you have something like resources or opportunity like that, right, and you're thinking about the challenges, because childcare is a huge issue. Traditional daycare centers close at 6.
Yes, yeah. Get your kids going home. Yeah, absolutely.
Right, or we gonna call the people on you if you don't.
We're gonna call these folks on you.
Yes. So, you have, and some of those like 24-hour or later places are very sketchy. So, and because that's a big stressor for any parent, regardless of where they are in their life. Yeah. Childcare is a huge stressor for all of us, making sure kids are with the right people, opportunities, like being able to manage those competing issues. Because if I got to drop you off over here, then I got to go over here to study, then we still got to eat. Like having something that would make it easier. Because this gets into, like, I think about, like, urban planning when we talk about having, like, walkable communities and everything local. Yeah, that type of setup, even if it's not the same building, but it's in the same immediate vicinity.
Yeah, like a little strip mall. It wouldn't be,
Right. Yeah. That type of stuff makes it so much easier for people to be active and engaged. If even when we talk about adult learning, like not quite the same thing, but the same thing is something that we looked at when I was in Chicago, thinking about schools as community schools, right? Where a school is open, maybe extra hours in the evening, providing adult learning courses, open outreach and opportunity for the community. That becomes a wraparound support for the school because you now have community support and involvement in the school, but the school is now a resource also for the community. So I think that opportunities like the one you've just mentioned, like that type of thing, it opens up. I mean, even if it doesn't necessarily change, studying and things like that, like even if I'm still having the weird hours of my studying, at least now there's one less thing that I have to stress about.
Yeah,
or it helps make something more manageable than it was before because you can only run on that. Oh my God! This is because you can only juggle so many different things before something finally starts. Before someone finally falls.
Things start
falling. So I think, so that type of in schools and like people are like non-traditional students are becoming a larger portion of the student population.
They are the largest part of the student population now. They tipped over.
Are they? See, so I didn't even know that. I knew when I was going. I knew they were becoming a larger, but I didn't realize. But then also, like, when you talk about people with kids, because, like, going to school, again, going back to the beginning of the conversation, whether we're talking about a certificate, associate's degree, going to grad school, whatever we're talking about, it absolutely does improve the opportunities and well-being of, an entire family. It's just so...
An entire community.
Crucial.
Yes,
Right. So making it possible for people to be able to pursue those opportunities, I mean, that makes it, in $25 a month, when you consider you'd have to go use gas or bus fare or whatever to get to a babysitter, then to get back to here to do this. I mean, you probably eat that up. That's probably a net savings for some people in some ways, So that's
even we had that strip mall facility where it'd be low cost meals. Instead of Chick-fil-A, it'd be Bobby's Burgers or something. It depends on it depends on where the facility is. But I mean, I was just spitballing, thinking of ways that people could take these pressures off of adult students. Of course, you know, you're with you know, places like tradition where a lot of traditional students are, you know, this doesn't make any sense. But when there's a lot of non-traditional students, something like that would make a lot of sense. But I'm just right now, again, I'm just spitballing, and like you said, the 24-hour childcare places are sketchy. Yeah, most definitely sketchy. But if it's in a shared facility, perhaps maybe that's in there with a gym,
right,
or something close by where you can see the building, you know,
right.
and you worry less about your kids and their well-being. But again, that was just spitballing, thought experiment sort of stuff. All right, so let's well, I guess we've been at this damn near an hour and a half. All right. Well, so let's do, what did I want to do? Okay, we talked about improving. Share your contact information. Where can people find you, Mr. Noah? Dr.
You can
Anoa
find me
Changa.
on Twitter at Miss Nono ESQ.
Great
You can
follow.
also find me on YouTube at the Benjamin Dixon Show. I have videos on there. I've hosted some of Ben's shows, and I've also hosted my own show weekly, Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. The Way, 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yep, don't miss it.
The Way with Anoa.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get mad if you try to message me on Facebook, because if we're not friends, your messages don't come through, and I don't always check that other box.
Don't get mad. So, don't get mad. Don't hate.
But the best way is Twitter. Twitter is definitely the best way to hit me up. And reach out for sure.
Okay, great. So you got any? I know the family and work and all your activism and now the show. I know it takes a lot of your time, but you got any?
Yes, some things have to start like falling off. You start reprioritizing. So the family and the show.
Yeah.
The activism feeds the show, I guess, and instead the family and the show.
But your activism has a bigger reach now, right? Because I mean, before you reaching before your local community, maybe communities you lived in before, or your family's communities. But now those people you know, they're going to watch your show anyway, or they're going to be touched by your show somehow. Yeah. Plus the new people you meet.
My dad has a smart TV, so he pulls up the YouTube app on the TV. So my dad watches me at 8. Whatever comes on at 8, he DVRs and he watches me. But apparently my stepmother's parents in North Carolina watch too. I said, and the second night they watched, I dropped an F-bomb, and I didn't know they were watching. My mom and my stepmom was like, "Yes, my parents watch the show." I said, "They watch the show?" I said, "So they heard me drop an F-bomb, and they're like my grandparents." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" So I have made sure to watch my language. And my daughter told me that a couple of her friends from school had watched my videos too.
You mentioned that on the show one day. Yeah, that's awesome.
So I found out 9th graders are watching, so I really have to watch my language for what I'm saying. Yeah. But it's good. That's good, definitely.
But it's great when you can expand your network like that. I mean, some days maybe only 50 to 100 people are watching. But the videos are still there. People can still come on and watch. You know, people. I mean, getting in the Ben's network. This is huge. Has a huge value.
Well, I'm excited because in the past week I've talked to 6 amazing candidates. 5 I've gotten the interview, but I've talked to 6 amazing candidates for their teams, and you know. Corey Bush, well, you guys probably remember when Ben had on Nina Turner, I squealed, right? I'm getting myself, I'm doing a little bit better. But JP was telling me, he was like, "It is so exciting to see you when you're excited to meet the people that you've been talking about."
I'm on JP's side on that one, yeah.
but it's just like, but like talking to Corey, because I read about Corey, you know, I remember seeing her when she came out as a Sanders Democrat. I am so excited, and it's an overused phrase, but I'm so here for her. Whatever happens, long run, I mean, that's definitely a leader that we have to follow. And it's been exciting. The roundtable I did last Friday with the millennial candidates, that was really exciting and interesting too.
That was great.
And I've had some contact with Alex Law's campaign. You know, Ben has interviewed Alex a couple of times. He's in Jersey. So it's 2 Jersey folks, because you have Peter Jacobs in Jersey and Alex Law in Jersey. Yes. So But talking to these candidates, running and stuff, that has been like, even if, I mean, some of the videos have gotten some really good play and stuff. The roundtable videos almost at 700 views now. So like, I'm really excited. Like
Wow,
that was like, but
views?
talking
Wow, that's awesome.
almost, I think it was like 660 or 670 when I checked earlier. Because I'll go back and look and I'll go back
That's
and
great.
reshare.
That's
But
great.
like, and Corey, my show with Corey, I think has like 400 views maybe on YouTube right now. So I can tell you to reshare that too, because the Progressive Army, what's going on, the shows, and I want to write a follow up. You've inspired me to do some writing, so I've only done a little bit of writing with PA, but I'm going to do some more. But I do want to follow up and write pieces. Well, yeah, I want to follow up and write 2 pieces off of those two shows, because talking about candidates, looking at going forward, the interview I had earlier today, that's been really exciting. And I kept telling everyone, I was like, I'm interviewing someone who's running for Senate. And then somebody else is like, well, I've never heard her. It doesn't matter. She's running for the U.S. Senate. How cool is that?
Yeah. I met somebody last night on Twitter. She's let me get this right. Let me check make sure I got the sources right. She is the founder of she's one of the co-founders of the Progressive Independent Party.
Oh, yeah. So that's something coming up. I might need to talk to some of these third-party people too. I think it's something I'm gonna need to do, or maybe Ben will want to do, because that's interesting. Because I know that that's starting to happen. Well, I mean, we have a lot of people talking about the Green Party, and I know that Nick and I get into it about the Green Party every once in a while. But
Nick is all for the Green Party.
He is. It's something I'm not against the Green Party, but I do think that we need to. I mean, we talk a lot with the Democrats about not wanting to be a deliverable. I don't want to be anybody's deliverable. I don't care how great your platform is. I'm not a deliverable.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we have power, and we're. Yeah, or a firewall. I'm not interested in if I'm not Hillary's firewall, I'm not interested in being Jill Stein's firewall. I'm just not interested in doing that. Yeah. But I do think, but that's another source of education too, civic education and engagement that is definitely crucially needed. But I do think we have an opportunity to talk to some of these, because even like how does Working Families Party work? Like Working Families Party is a party, but they run like Democratic left-leaning candidates. So I just would like to have, and I like to have conversation. Yeah, exactly. Zephyr Teachout is a Working Families candidate. I want to talk more with some of these people.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, to see what's up. That's interesting. I have to follow up with you about her. But this has been great.
I just sent you in this chat here in what is this? Google Hangouts. I just sent you her.
Okay, great.
A Raquel Bloss. But I'll link you guys up, because I want to do an interview with her on her education platform for her party.
Nice.
And I also, of course, I want to get into I want to dive knee deep in your Rolodex and start talking to your people about education, their education.
Well, I didn't, because I know I didn't really get to talk too much, but I would like to have an education round, because really what I would like to do over the next several months, and whether it's interesting to people or not, I really don't know, but I would like to do a series of policy issue-oriented. Education is crucial.
Each party, yeah. Can I sit in on that?
Yeah, yes. That's what I'm saying. Like when we had the conversation about education and it's like about questions, I didn't really get to those specific questions. But I think pulling together people to talk about education policy issues, right? Yes. Because education policies is a wonderful term of art. Education reform is this wonderful term of art that we turn around. I mean, talking about this, basically the general stuff we talked about, right? So we talk about like regular K through 12 stuff, charter versus public versus private partnership, just all types of stuff. But I really want to get some minds, together to talk and flush through some of these issues that we're seeing, and what is our way forward? Like, how do we start talking? How do we leverage resources in our communities? The kids' schools, even though my daughter goes to school in Buckhead, it's a Title I school. Because they have kids coming from, Bankhead and other places. It's Title I. So it's in the middle of a very rich community, one of the richest communities, in the region. But it also gets Title I funds, so they're able to leverage it to do. The PTA raises all this money, and they fund like 7 extra sports that the school otherwise wouldn't have. Like all this stuff is able to be done.
In those nice neighborhoods, they can raise a whole lot of money for a whole lot of stuff.
They do a whole lot. And what can we do? But looking at what can we do, even if we have way less, what can we do with what we have starting those conversations. And then how do we reach out active and engage and educate parents who are working,
That's a big
who
one for me.
are, to even, I mean, because, you need to have a certain level of speed. You got to get up to speed to even be able to understand what's even going on in some of these meetings. And they want to talk to you about school change and informational sessions about this and picking principles. I mean, that's a whole nother side of things too.
One of the podcasts. I don't know if you heard the podcast I did with it was just the audio was with Michael Solomon. He grew up in a place called the Chautauqua Institute in Western New York, right? And it was just and basically it's basically a town, and the whole town is about education, right? And and everything in that town is education based. It has a summer program, and people from all over the world come to that summer program. But also around the year, the kids who live there also get benefit from that. Like Sandra Day O'Connor has a house there. E.J. Dion has a house there. I mean, it's just this huge community, and education. It's about education. It's about inclusiveness. And it was just, when you get a chance, just listen to it. And I want to help foster education in communities. I think that is so important. No matter what your level of resources is, try your best. Like I read an article about a study about the difference of just having books in the house. Just having books in the house makes a world of difference for a child as far as education is concerned, right? So there's so many things that can be done to help. Like if you have a community that is bringing more books, you have more books in the home. You've got gardens going on. You're interfacing with the local school, so the school is part of the community. You're supporting the teachers. That's one of the things that I talked about on one of my shows. Of course, you will hear about it. You'll see them in June. But it's that fostering, helping the teachers, build a community where the teachers are appreciated, right? I think that's right, because too often it becomes an adversarial thing between parents and teachers. I think parents could help build a community that fosters trust and it helps keep good teachers around. It's really hard to keep good teachers in bad schools, which makes them worse schools. So if communities, if it's just stuff like that, even if it's just one piece of that or two pieces of that or more pieces of that together, there's got to be ways to do this better. You know what I mean? You still there? Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Okay. I'm here.
I thought I lost you. All right. So
I just had a sip of water. I'm here.
Okay, not a problem. Okay, last two things. You got any future plans ahead other than life and the way with the Anoa? Running for office, maybe?
No, not anytime soon. I'd like to help a lot of other people get there, though. Okay. Future plans, just helping to shape a whole other generation. Just working with the little crew I got going on, making sure these people get to where they got to be, and trying to help and be an influence. I don't know if that looks like actually starting a mentoring program or what it looks like. Helping my daughter, maybe even taking because I don't always need to be the point or the lead. Maybe taking it back, let her do peer mentoring or something. I don't know what that ultimately, but definitely getting more involved. I've been in Atlanta now almost 2 years. Mm-hmm. I've been in the city of Atlanta for a year next month, and I've been in the metro area for almost 2 years now.
That's a whole lot of metro area too.
It is a whole lot of it. It's very different living here in the city, because when we first moved here, we were in Stone Mountain with my dad and my stepmom. It's very different. Even though it's only a 30-minute drive.
Yes, they're worlds away. My parents are in Decatur. They're worlds away.
Yeah, it's very, very different. So So kind of getting more of the lay of the land, understanding even the difference between DeKalb County schools and APS is just huge. So getting more of the lay of the land, no, not running for office anytime soon, not at all. They can't pay me enough to cover my student loan debt and other bills.
I hear you.
And I can't sell myself out to pay the bills. I like having the freedom of being able to do commentary and stuff the way I do. Mm-hmm. Ben has told me I have to build out my own channel. He's getting rid of me. No, he's not. But what I appreciate about working with Ben is being encouraged, because not many people share their space with others.
Yeah, people get very defensive about their space.
Yeah, and not many, even if you're not the same, not many people are willing to share their space the way he does. And
Yeah,
I absolutely,
yeah,
his
you gotta
team,
appreciate that. Yeah, and
yeah, like I was taken aback. Like the second time we talked, he was like, "Okay, I'm giving you a list of stuff. I'm giving you a shopping list. This is what you need to do if you're going to be doing this. It'll be full time." I was like, "What are you talking about? I
what
just came
happened?
on once. What are you talking?" So
He was
continuing
right.
on.
He was right.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it. But
Yeah.
working with providing voices. I mean, I think there's a different niche. There's a lot of wonderful Black women out there that are doing stuff and engaging,
Yeah.
but I don't think a lot of people are having conversations that I
Mm-hmm.
want to start trying to have, particularly looking at increasing representation of
Mm-hmm.
women of color in positions of power and authority. So,
Yeah. Yeah. You and I have talked about it before, but Ben is
mm-hmm,
brilliant. I had to, I, we- we're not.
yeah,
I'm not gonna put this on the podcast, but Ben is brilliant because I didn't see it before. I think it was you I talked to before about the Black intelligentsia in social media, in the
mm-hmm,
social media and podcast world. Because I used to think these people were so smart, and then
yep.
now when you hang around people like Ben and you start to realize that, damn, these people aren't as smart as I thought they were at the very least. I guess to a certain extent, it's how we view authority in American culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're on this
Well,
platform.
to me, like being given a shot, I'm
Mhm.
just like, oh, I'm a political commentator now.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, an
I
important
can do
voice
this
at
for
that.
real.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can do this for real. Like
yeah,
this is pretty cool.
yeah,
So no, so yeah, continuing to build out the brand and looking to see ways that I can start. Of course, there's a lot of talk about the progressive movement and moving things forward. I mean, we've had a
mhm,
progressive movement in this country as long as we've had anything.
yeah, yeah.
But looking at this current wave, we talk about movements. I think when you look at movements and waves,
Hmm.
there are so many different facets to it.
Hmm.
um, what is the role, and particularly looking at what is the role. I'm a woman of color, so I'm just stick with that. That's my
Yeah,
thing, right?
yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
woman of color. I'm an
Absolutely.
articulate woman of color.
Yep.
There are a lot of us
Educated.
out
Yep.
there.
Absolutely.
There are a lot of us out here, but I really think that there is like, how do we help, shape
Hmm.
going forward some of the agenda for what
Yeah.
needs to be done and
But
addressed.
yeah, and especially the way Ben is doing it. Okay, I'm gonna give you this platform, I'm gonna share this platform, but now you're gonna you created your own platform. You're gonna sit over here, and you're gonna and Nick, you're gonna take your platform and sit over there.
Mm-hmm.
The Insanity Report. The what's the name of the show?
Project Insanity.
Project Sanity. Project Sanity. Project Sanity.
Yeah,
You
Project
build
Sanity.
it
Yes,
out
it
over
is
there.
Project Sanity.
Mike, you're gonna do your thing over there. Now it's not just the Benjamin Dixon channel; it's the Benjamin Dixon network.
Mm-hmm.
So now, if
Yep.
we do the same thing, we share our channel with people that we meet along the way, and this thing grows exponentially, which is brilliant. Pushing us out of the nest for him being at
Mm-hmm.
the center of this. It is absolutely
Mm-hmm.
brilliant.
Yeah, I teased him. I said, "Oh, you got your fancy studio, your fancy new friend, so you getting rid of me now?" I
Yeah,
mean, I put in 3 months work, and I'm not good enough no more.
that's how
He
we
was
feel.
like, "Child," he said, "Child, I may go Republican." I said, "Okay." I mean, that don't scare me. What I got one of my
Let's
best
get it.
friends is a libertarian, so
Yeah,
I mean, we good.
yeah. Let's go, libertarians. Oh my god.
That's another conversation. One of my best friends is a white libertarian from West Virginia who hates Obama.
Libertarians. Oh
I
my
love her dearly,
god.
though.
Yeah. Oh, libertarians. I call them the what do I call them? I forgot my own phrase. The frat boys of American politics. They have no idea about long-term consequences. No clue whatsoever. How do you go through life as a libertarian? How do you? Anyway, another argument for another
I don't
discussion
know.
for another day. All right, so we talked about your future
Definitely.
plans. So we talked about how people can contact you. Now it's my turn to talk. I
All
want to
right.
say, I want to say thank you. Thank you so very much for taking this time. I know it was a long time. I know you got things to do. It was a great conversation. A few things I may have to snip out. Also, I wanted to say we like to share resources here on the show. The two documentaries that you mentioned, Flag Wars and Breaking Ground, about the Dudley Street Initiative. So
Yeah.
for all you folks out there, again, it's Flag Wars, a documentary about housing, and Breaking Ground about the Dudley Street Initiative and how to use eminent domain. And the TIL program, which is, look it up.
That was in New
Google.
York. Yeah.
That was in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tenant something lease program. Look it
Yeah.
up.
Basically tenant ownership. Like my aunt lived in
Mhm.
She lives in Harlem in near Morningside Park, and the
Mm-hmm.
building was rehab. They went through the program and did what they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's kind of like you think about rent control. Like the apartments are kind of rent controlled price wise,
Yeah.
and it can stay in the family. It's like a 99-year lease type of thing or
Yeah,
whatever.
I've heard about those.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's an interesting opportunity to help, but it's so hard for buildings to get into the program and go through it
Yeah,
and stuff.
that's
So
the
so there's
most expensive piece of, I
we
mean,
can make a
in
list.
the
We can
world.
do a series. There's just so much to talk about and so much to
Yeah.
do. So thank you so much for this
Thank you
conversation.
so much. I had a blast. Hopefully we'll have another one soon. I definitely, again, I need to talk to you about the urban planning piece, and
Yes.
how we can help build communities and foster education. And I think that may be a nice sized project that we can talk about in the
Well, I
future.
really, well, yeah. So before we get off, so looking at schools and community is really huge because once upon a time we had the neighborhood school model, right? We
Yes,
had a
absolutely.
school,
Yes.
communities were walkable, like you
Hmm.
said. Back in the day, kids walked to school.
Yeah.
The neighborhood school, but looking at schools is more than just an educational piece, but also as an anchor in the community.
Absolutely. Just like the church. Yeah. Well, the church used to be. Now,
Yeah,
church.
like a
Yeah.
church,
Yeah.
like
Absolutely.
another. Schools provide opportunity for extracurricular. Schools provide,
Hmm.
more than just your basic,
After school, childcare,
reading,
all kinds of
writing,
stuff. Yeah.
arithmetic.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
training opportunities.
Hmm.
If it doubles as a community center type of facility where you could
Hey,
have like
let's
open gym.
talk.
I mean, there's
Let's
all types of
talk.
stuff that can be done. I mean,
You know what?
ultimately, I would love. I do not have an education background, but ultimately, I would love to have a school. Ultimately, is what I would
Yeah.
love to do.
I had
But that's a whole other
my
conversation.
aunt used to own a school in Atlanta. It was Hogger Brooks Academy. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if it's still standing, but that was decades ago. But I do now that I'm thinking about it. My when we lived in Egypt, our boss my wife's boss lived downstairs, and he was a Scottish guy. He was in facilities management. Now, facilities management is different in Europe and than it is here, and it
Mm-hmm.
is and a lot of it is building facilities for their purpose, right? So starting
Mm-hmm.
from the ground up, building facilities around people, how people act, and how they are going to interact with this facility. And he would be a great person to talk to if we worked on this project. He would be a great person to talk to, and he loves talking. I love Stan. He's a great.
That's great.
Yeah, Stan Mitchell. Get a chance to look him up. Stan Mitchell.
Okay.
He's a key facilities management. You'd be like, wow, well, at the time he was the biggest guy in facilities management worldwide. And when he moved to Egypt to open facilities management to Egypt, and now he's in 3 or 4 different Middle Eastern and North African countries. I mean, he's just really doing it. Yeah, but
Okay. Oh
Stan,
wow.
look
Yeah.
up my man Stan. All right, okay, that's it. Noah, I'm gonna stop talking you to death. It was a great conversation again. See you on the air next Tuesday.
Definitely. Awesome. Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Way
Yep.
with the Noah. Okay, get your head right and get in there and listen to what Noah has to say. Always great guest, always great conversation. Sometimes she can get a little rowdy, but but we love that about her.
Yeah, I try my best. I try my best. I'm trying to keep it for on the air only.
Yeah, there you go.
Um,
Do what you do. Do what you do.
okay.
Ben has an amazing eye for talent. And you are an absolute gem. I'm proud. I'm proud to count you among my friends. All
I
right.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No, it's no problem, darling. I will talk to you soon.
All right, talk
Bye
to you
bye.
later. Bye bye.